Okay, this is the Criminally Outspoken podcast for 21st March 2024. And I've taken a small break again from podcasting, but this time it's genuinely not my fault. And here's why, right? 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was convinced that the best change for me would be to switch over to Windows, as from Windows to Linux. And I want to dedicate this entire podcast to my experience about that. The differences between Linux and Windows so far from what I've seen after using it for a month, and what is my conclusion about the entire thing. And, is Linux better than Windows? In my opinion, short answer, fuck no. Just go back and stick to Windows. And I will let you guys know why exactly that is. So, 4 weeks ago, I was convinced by my brother that, uh, you know, Windows is shit. Everything's paid. Open source is way better. With Linux, you have complete control over your laptop, and it's just going to be a better experience overall. And he's a CS guy, computer science guy, and so is my younger brother. So you've heard him on the podcast. So it's quite. Oh, I apologize for the background noise if you can hear it. There's a lot of angle grinding going on. There's a lot of construction in the area, but I'm afraid you're just gonna have to deal with it. So, uh, right. So when it comes to Linux, I was completely convinced that that was such a good idea because I'm ready to improve on whatever I have of my abilities in a sense. And I thought, okay, with Linux, I'm gonna get the whole, user experience. It's gonna be way, way better than Windows. And I bought a new laptop, so this seems like a perfect time to switch over, right? Just wipe Windows from that laptop and throw Linux on, because that's what my cousin said as well, because he's really, really good at this sort of stuff. So I'm inclined to believe. And also, I've seen his abilities in action. Like, he can read code like nobody's business. He can do shit on computers like nobody's business, and he's really good at that. Uh, and that confidence, when you see somebody who's really good at something, it's like, wow, okay, yeah, I believe you in what you're saying in your field, 100%. Like that confidence that comes from ability, it's just fantastic, right? So I was inclined to believe him, and he uses Arch. Now, actually, what is so? I'm not a computer science guy. I'm barely a science guy. I'm barely a computer guy, even separately or together. So I this is whatever I understand from whatever's going on, and not the actual definitions of whatever the fuck is actually going on, right? So the OS is basically the thing that makes all the computer parts interact with each other, and they talk to each other, and then you can do programs and shit and whatever, right? Run applications off that, right? So Linux is open source. The code is disclosed to everybody, and it's just like a whole. It's a big debate between Windows and Linux because Windows is all secretive and the source code is not given out to everybody. Um, but Linux is not like that. Like they disclose everything, especially. I think there's a new thing with the Red Hat Enterprise, which is now making some like their Linux version um, into a paid software. So it's like there's a whole not conspiracy, but Linux community hates it now for some reason. Okay, anyway, I'm getting off topic. So Linux is not like Windows, right? In a sense that you know how you have Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11. Linux is not like that. In Linux, you have these things called distros or distributions. So you'll have, so just like versions of different versions and different capabilities and different updates of Windows, you'll have different distributions entirely. So you have um, what is it, Debian, Arch, shit like that, Ubuntu, like, okay. So those are all Linux, which means they're open source and all that shit. And they're free to use. You can download them yourself, use it yourself, and they're going to be updated regularly. And it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. So my cousin uses Arch, and he convinces me to use Arch. And I was like, okay, sure. You know what? If as long as it's not too complicated, I'm okay. Like I know there's gonna be a learning curve, and that's fine. I'm willing to tackle that. It's not gonna. I mean, I'm hoping it's not gonna take a long time. And he convinces me like, no. It's very easy to use. It's very simple. Shit just works out of the box. And I believe. And now this is my main point of contest later on. So keep that in mind. Here are the promises that Linux makes, right? Linux promises to be easy to use. Linux promises to be free. Linux promises to be able to use software that Windows doesn't. Okay. Now remember these three promises later on. I'm just flying off the top of my head, so maybe I won't remember them later on, but humor me, right? Then so the first thing he does is, all right, we're gonna wipe everything, and we're gonna put Arch in, and we do that in the form of Endeavor OS. So we put that in, and it's a completely different system. Like you have to update it all the time, and now here begins the spiral of doom, as I like to call it, the spiral of Linux. So in my experience, so one of the first things I wanted was like all my old programs to work, and if not, like I need some kind of replacement for it, right? I don't care if it's open source. I just need it to work. Now that is my biggest and most important criteria for using any kind of software on the laptop. It should just work, and if it doesn't solve my purpose. And it's gonna get me frustrated, it's gonna get me fucking angry, right? So, I tell him to download all these, because even downloading is a fucking pain in the ass in Linux, right? You, instead of just downloading the setup, like you do on Windows and then running it and just, it installs it for you, right? There's a wizard that shows up and it's just done. He flicks a wand and fucking the icon's right there. You click on it and you use it. Linux is not like that. You go online, you find its directory, you make a clone of it, and then you make it, you compile it. Sometimes you don't have to compile, right? As my cousin says, it's a waste of fucking time. So you don't compile it, and then it shows up. And even then, sometimes it has so many bugs and issues that it might not work. So first thing we try is OBS, right? OBS works. That's great. Next thing I try, because I want to do this podcasting properly, right? And OBS was my go-to back on Windows on my old laptop. So I combined OBS and DaVinci Resolve, right? And turns out DaVinci Resolve does not want to install on Linux. There is no support for it. The graphic driver or whatever drivers were involved, and I have AMD, not NVIDIA. So apparently there's a whole fucking issue where you need some specific OpenCL drivers that allow DaVinci Resolve to work, but they are unsupported which just means that there's not going to be updates for it, there's not going to be any bug fixes for it, and if there are, there's nobody to check it, um, and everything's low fucking budget because it's Linux, right? It's supposed to be free. So there's not many people willing to work on it in the first place because there's no reward, right? That's the whole engine of capitalism right there. And I'll get to that later. Hopefully I'll get to that because this is going to be a one fucking rant of a fucking conversation, right? With myself. And I'm trying to get this all out in one go so I never have to repeat this again and you guys don't have to listen to me go on and on about how pissed off I am about Linux. So, including myself, like it's pretty fucking therapeutic to just get it all out there and then just never think about it again, right? Make it comprehensive and just call it good. So, here we are, right? So, OBS and DaVinci Resolve. And OBS installs perfectly fine, and DaVinci Resolve doesn't. And now I'm very hesitant to use any other the editing software personally because I've used so many already before. I've used Premiere Pro, I've used Lightworks, I've used Shotcut, and I've used a couple other open source ones, and they've never been good. They've never been easy to use, they've never been intuitive, and this is, I'm talking like back when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and I'm trying to record League of Legends videos, trying to be a fucking gaming YouTuber, right? You know, because we've all done that at some point, like CSGO videos, and, you know, you're trying to be one of those people, right? So in my opinion, that wasn't very... it wasn't very intuitive. I really enjoyed Lightworks, but unfortunately you can only render up to 720p. Yeah, I need something like it's the modern era. I need something up to 1080 at least, right? I need full HD videos, even though all you guys see is a fucking picture of two fucking monkeys that's AI generated, right? Right. So I just needed to do something, right? And I found DaVinci Resolve to be perfect. It's industry standard, and it renders freely up to 1080p, which is what I need, and it pretty much handles everything I throw at it for free, and it works fine, and I like the interface as well. So, you know, I grew real comfortable using it, and turns out I can't fucking use it on Linux because there's a whole shit involved there, and my cousin's far too busy to try and set that up for me, or it's just too much of a fucking hassle even for him. So I never got it to work. Next thing is OBS, right? When I started recording in OBS, and I thought, okay, I'll just, you know what, I'll bite the fucking bullet, and I know DaVinci Resolve was supposed to work with Windows. I'm going to have to make some sacrifices in capabilities and performance and applications and shit like that. Okay, I'm willing to do that as long as everything else works. You know how it goes. Like, you got to make some sacrifices now and again. So I start recording on OBS, and my voice just keeps peaking over and over and over. That and when I analyzed it, you know, I downloaded Audacity for it, which is a sound editing program and recording software, like whatever you want to do with it related to sound, it can handle it, right? So I recorded in Audacity then, and it turns out that Windows has this feature where it automatically normalizes your voice so that shit doesn't peak. And here I am, like, trying to buy a mic, so that fixes it, but that didn't fix it. I ran at least 30 different tests, 30 different attempts to try and figure out the settings. I applied noise gates, I applied noise suppression in OBS, in the filters, you know, in that section. Equalizers, 3-band compressors, upward compressors, whatever the fuck they want, right? And it didn't work because the waveforms are just too big and it doesn't normalize them. That I've only figured out how to do in Audacity, and that's post-record. So it's going to sound like shit, right? And if I want to do these podcasts, at least the sound needs to be good. That's because that's the main thing here. You're listening to me, right? Nobody's gonna listen if it's shit, right? So, I grew very fucking frustrated at that point because I've attempted this 30 times. I bought a new mic for it, and it just doesn't want to work. In case you're wondering how I'm recording right now, it's actually on my phone. And if this doesn't record properly, I'm afraid you're just gonna have to deal with it for now. I will be getting Windows back on my laptop and optimizing it that way, and hopefully it works out in the future, so you guys get better quality stuff. But it's a work in progress, and I am working at it very hard whenever I do have time. So please be patient. So when it comes to all these three applications that I wanted to use the most, well, the third one was Discord, because when I'm trying to record with a different person, somebody else, I usually get them on Discord. And with Discord, apparently they use like a different fucking coding package, or there's not a port for it on Linux, or whatever the fuck the issue is, I don't know. But it just doesn't want to install on Arch. And every time I try and run it, it turns out it keeps downloading the Ubuntu version and trying to run that on Arch, and it's just a whole fucking mess, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't even open up, so I had to resort to using the browser version, which is dog shit, right? If anybody's ever used Discord, it's essentially Skype but for gamers and low budget. And you can use it through your browser like Firefox or Chrome. But it's just what I've used for a very, very long time. So it's convenient, I know how it works, and it's good enough. So all three of those things don't want to work. So if you're wondering how or why I'm taking so long to record such a simple podcast, these are the issues that keep coming up over the last 4 weeks. Now, I started using KDE and Live Editor, Kden Live Editor or Video Editor or whatever, the open source version of a video editing software, and it's nowhere as good, it's nowhere as powerful, and it's honestly not great. It's in my opinion, it's the worst product you can get that works on Linux, which also does mean that it's the absolute best product on Linux that works, and it's not ideal at all. After that, it's like, okay, I can't install Steam, I can't play video games. I don't already, but if I wanted to, like, to reward myself, like some kind of motivation during the day, I cannot do that anymore. If I want to play the biggest games out there, they need to have a Linux port for it, or I'm not allowed to play them unless I install Wine, which is this thing that emulates Windows to run these fucking games. So like, you guys hate Windows, but you're resorting to using Windows in Linux to fucking work these. So, because that's what Wine is, right? WINE, Windows emulator, right? That's just how that is. So, at least my understanding, right? I just made that shit up. God knows. So, I can't play any games. I don't have any motivation in that sense. So, those are the most basic of struggles. Following which, I've had struggles with, oh yeah, this is a big one. So the first time I put my laptop on sleep and I tried opening it up, turns out that the screen doesn't show up. Like, everything's on, I can see the light on my power button, but the screen doesn't come on. It's just a black fucking screen, right? So it's not fun to use because I have to shut it down every single time and then load it back up. It's not a laptop anymore. Like, that's the whole purpose of a laptop. and it's not a laptop anymore. So I'm having to use it as a desktop, and God knows I can't even write anymore, because every time I tried writing, and I took a break to like go piss, the laptop goes on sleep, and I lose like 3 pages worth of writing that I've already done because I have to reload. Because that's another thing, Microsoft Word isn't available. There's no autosave feature, right? You have to manually save it. Um, So that happened a couple times and pissed me right the fuck off, because I'm not, like, I've already put in so much effort into writing, and now you're telling me I have to do it again, and this time actually remember to save it. Like, go fuck yourself, honestly, go fuck yourself. Um, so that was that, and so the writing took a hit as well. Um, After that, whenever I want to turn on the laptop, I have to input 3 different passwords, because I don't fucking know why. Like, because apparently my SSD is encrypted as well. And then there's a swap that's encrypted as well, um, which just means fuck all to me, or to be honest. And then once the laptop login password, Windows does not have these issues. When I use Windows, it just fucking works. In my whole entire life, I've always used Windows, whether it's Vista or Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11. I have always used Windows, and sure, the 2-hour updates and the forced updates, which if you don't update, oh look, you can't use your audio or keyboard anymore. I get that, but it's not that often, to be honest. And you can always delay these updates if you really need to. And I'd rather have these 2-hour updates that Windows takes. And by the way, I've only ever had that blue screen of death once on Windows in my entire life of using it. Not to mention that there is tons of support out there, because Windows is the most operated, most used OS out there, and the whole world uses it. So imagine the amount of efficiency and precision you need and accuracy you need to run that shit. What I found in Linux is that every time you update, something breaks, right? You're always fixing something in Linux, which just means that you lose all that time you could be to being productive at something that you'd rather do. Like, if you want to start writing, in my case, you just want to start writing. Like, you want a Word document that saves and you start writing. That's not how it works in Linux. You have to download this one thing that solves this purpose, and then you download this other thing because this first one broke in this one purpose. Then you use that for a bit, and in next update it's broken again, and you're always fixing things before you start working. Same with DaVinci Resolve, like you're always fixing it, and it's never fully done. It's the same thing with OBS and sound quality, right? You're always fixing it before you start working. And I don't want to do that. I just want to start working. It's the shit that just works is what I want. I am paying Windows for the convenience of having to just work. And that's what I want at this point in life. Now, I mentioned that Linux promises to be easy. It's not, because we've spent our entire lives on Windows. And the thing with Windows is it's profit driven. When something is profit driven and you're paying your employees, whether it's shit salaries or not, they are more motivated to do work on it, to do some work on it, to fix it. And now, because Linux is open source, there's not enough funding for it. And now I do think that Linux could be incredible. It could be so much better than Windows, but it's not. And that's reality right there. Um, so when it comes to Windows, people have proper motivation to keep working on the programs. They have proper motivation to fix these bugs because the whole world relies on it. And when something like that happens, they bug fix it pretty fucking quick, right? Now, I don't care if you don't have privacy anymore on Windows. I don't care if there's malware on it, bloated, like extra software that you don't need that decreases your efficiency here and there. I don't care because what it does is allow me to work when I need to work and how I need to work. I don't care about the extra 20% more efficient laptop. It's already good enough to handle that 20% inefficiency. I just need it to work. I don't need it to break on me every 20 minutes when I try and do something. And then spend another 4.5 hours browsing through old Reddit posts and forums and God knows what else to try and fix a problem that should have been fixed in 2 lines of code by the developers themselves. Like, it's not fucking fun to use. And if I was a CS guy, maybe. But even then, I'm starting to think that these Linux people are it's just a giant circle jerk of people saying, oh, it's really good. It's really, really good. I don't see it, right? Now I get it. There's a learning curve, and this is the way things are supposed to be. It's like blah 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 blah. But the fact of the matter is, what allows me to work, do my job as a regular person trying to use a computer? Is it Windows or is it Linux? For the average person, Linux is top tier hot garbage, right? It's a giant circle jerk of people who are always telling you that this is better, but it's not. Face reality. There's also like an ego in the community, like either you know this or you don't, and if you don't, you're an idiot and you go fuck yourself. That ego is everywhere in every single post. Like, oh, like, bro, how am I supposed to fix this for you? You haven't posted logs. Bitch, I don't know how to get the logs in the first place. How am I supposed to do this? Right? There's not enough support for it on YouTube either. Like, I'm using Arch here. I'm using Endeavor OS. So that didn't work out. And I thought, okay, you know what? Fuck it. Let's try a different one. Let's try a different version of Linux. Maybe that'll work. Let's give it another shot because I'm not a quitter. And if the learning curve is too high, let's just go to a simpler one. You know, that's supposed to work out of the box. That's just one of the best, right? So I try Linux Mint, and it's the same fucking issues. It's the same shit. I can't install DaVinci Resolve. My mic is still fucked on OBS, and Discord is now actually working. You know, props to them. They got one fucking software to work, and my screen is still dead after waking it up from the sleep, right? So there's no fucking point. It's like I'm tackling the same issues in both the distros. There's no point. Why did I even switch over at that point? Because I'm using the same applications. I'm still using KDE and Live Editor, whatever the fuck that is. Useless piece of shit software. And I'm still using, while trying to use OBS to record, and Audacity to try and correct the fucking audios, and it just doesn't work. I didn't have these issues. I don't want to face these issues when there's a simpler and much more convenient method out there. At least for the average person, right? So this was last night, and then my cousin came back home and it's like, we're having a good time, and he turns on the another PC that he built, right? He hasn't visited that thing in 3 months, and he updates it, and everything just breaks down. Like, so he put Arch on it initially, and it broke fucking down because he didn't update it, and there were some stability issues or whatever. He was on an unstable version anyway. So it's like, okay, you built this thing to work, This is a super high spec computer that you built yourself, and you're telling me that I can't open the fucking browser? Uh, you're telling me it still cannot run Discord? It still cannot run Steam? And you still can't play any game unless you pirate it or put it on a Linux port? Like, oh, that's top tier hot garbage, bro. Just put Windows on it at that point, honestly. It's so fucking stupid. I don't get it. And here's the thing. Then he's using this other distro called NixOS, right? And he's putting that on, and that takes him another, 2 hours. And he sets it up entirely last night, and I'm pretty fucking impressed because I can't do that shit. And I look at it and I just go, wow, that's really well done. Um, but can it do the things I need it to do? No. That is that is my point. That is my exact point. It still cannot do the things I need it to do. And that is exactly why I'm switching back to Windows today. I think there was Windows 11 on my laptop beforehand, so I'll just go back to that. And I'll just be happy and content with Windows for the rest of my life. Because honestly, this has been a traumatic fucking experience. Trying to do anything on Linux. Because I think I've wasted about 20 to 30 hours a week fixing Linux. Whether it's from the terminal or GUI issues or whatever. And I'm scrolling through these posts with one niche solution that was posted 20 years ago that doesn't work anymore. And it's like, I don't get it. I don't want to get it. I just want to use this one software. I just need it to work. I want to do my work. And it's just mind-bogglingly frustrating. So, in short, don't switch to Linux. Don't do it. If you're an average user of a computer or of a laptop, at least as a desktop version, don't use it. If you're a server developer, I've heard, I've not seen it, that people use Linux on servers and it's just the most reliable thing on the planet, and all the servers work, it's on your phones, it's on your whatever. I don't care. Can it do the shit I need it to do? No. And that's my point. So, to sum it all up, Linux promises to offer you out-of-the-box working solution that's easy to use. What a circle jerk and a fucking lie that is. Linux promises to be free. But let me tell you something. Free doesn't mean just monetarily. For me, my time is worth way more than money. Just because, like, I value it more. And I don't want, so the price for Linux is your time. Now, if you care about your time, if you have or are trying to do something else in life, whether it's trying to write a book, whether it's trying to do a podcast, whether it's trying to do 500 other things, right? Whether you actually want to go to the gym and take care of yourself or not, you better sacrifice all fucking that just to get Linux working every second of the day. It's gonna chew up all your time for the rest of your days. Because there's no support for it, everything lags behind, and everything's fucking broken. It's always broken. And even if you get a new laptop, that laptop is far too new for you to be able to use any of the old software on it. So you have to wait until all the drivers catch up, which is going to be 2 or 3 years down the line, for it to actually be able to handle those softwares. And by that time, Windows has already moved on. Like, there's so much better crap on Windows, you'd rather pay for that, honestly. The amount of efficiency and effort that you save and the time you save just by paying for things for that convenience on Windows is unmatched. It's actually unmatched for the regular person. Um, so it promises to be free, which it does deliver. It's free, but it's a broken piece of crap, and it's not worth it because the price is your time and frustration and mental health and effort. It's not worth it. And the third thing I already fucking forgot, but my point still stands. Don't go to Linux. And that's going to be the end of this podcast. That's my rant. You probably never have to hear it again because I'm switching back to Windows now unless somebody brings it up in a regular conversation. And I'm for sure never going to speak about it again unless it's completely necessary because I've vented it all out now. And that's the beauty of this podcast thing. Like once you vent it all out, like you're not going to bring it up over and over again. It's a tackled issue. It's a solved issue. You don't need to fix what ain't broken, which is what Linux does, by the way. Fucking roast. All right, that's it. Have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.